Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video, we're taking a look at the GameSir-X3 mobile gamepad. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, GameSir provided this X3 gamepad for a fair and honest review, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. Now, taking a quick peek at the back of the box here for some of the listed features, it says wired connection for zero input delay. It also has a fan and cooling pad to help keep your phone cool. One click to capture, tactile feedback with Kailh micro switches and Alps 3D joysticks. It's cloud gaming compatible and it's got customizable D-pad joysticks and buttons. Taking a look inside the box, or pouch rather, and one thing I do want to highlight is that GameSir does a great job with overall presentation. These little pouches are a really nice touch. In the top portion of the pouch, we've got a Usbc cable. Now this cable does not deliver data, it is power only. And this cable is also very floppy. It's got a soft feel to it, it's very floppy. I'm doing a horrible job describing this, but really at the end of the day here, this is a very unique cable. Inside the tiny box sitting on top of the controller, we've got those interchangeable joysticks and D-pad as well as some thumbstick covers. And there are also some stickers here as well as some instruction manuals. Here's a quick peek at one of those interchangeable joysticks. We can see they are held on by little magnets. And here's the interchangeable D-pad. It kind of looks like an umbrella logo from Resident Evil. On the bottom here we have another magnet. And here's a closer look at the GameSir-X3. It has a USB-C port to plug directly into your phone. This is not a wireless controller, it is a wired controller. The layout is very similar to the GameSir-X2. There are a few minor differences and we'll go over those in just a second. Something unique about this controller is the fact that you can pull off the joysticks, the D-pad, and even the ABXY buttons if you'd like. You can switch the joysticks for slightly longer ones, you can switch the D-pad for a different one, and you can change the location or layout rather of the ABXY buttons if you want. It is worth pointing out that the D-pad, the ABXY buttons, and the shoulder buttons all feature micro switches, so when you press them there is an audible click. Some people might like this and some people might not. I'll talk more about the D-pad in just a minute. Initially it did feel very weird, but it does work very well. As for the shoulder buttons here, they aren't analog, it's just one click and that's it. So if you like to play racing games, it's either full throttle or nothing at all. By default, the controller does have shorter joysticks installed, but if you want to switch them up to longer ones, you absolutely can. Here is the difference between the default shorter ones on the left and the longer ones on the right. Here's a quick peek at what the top of the controller looks like. We just have the shoulder buttons. And here's a look at the bottom of the controller. There are two different USB-C ports. The one on the right delivers power to your phone and the one in the center powers the fan. And here's a better look at the back of the controller where you can see the fan. And on the right and the left hand side, there's also textured plastic for your hands. And this is what the controller looks like fully extended. It can accommodate quite a big phone. And here's the controller fully extended from the front. It's worth noting that the more you extend this controller, the flimsier it gets. If it's fully extended, it's going to be pretty darn flimsy. And here's a better look at the USB-C connector. It bends up and it bends down to help reduce damage to your phone. Unfortunately, it doesn't extend at all, so if you do have a phone case, chances are you won't be able to plug this fully into your phone. For a quick comparison here, we've got the X3 on the bottom, the X2 USB-C in the middle, and the X2 Bluetooth version on the top. The X2 Bluetooth and the X2 USB-C are incredibly similar, so we'll just compare the X2 USB-C with the X3 USB-C. So here's the X2 on the left and the X3 on the right. One of the things I noticed right away was that USB-C placement. On the X2 it's on the left hand side and on the X3 it's on the right hand side. If you take a look at these side by side, the X3 is considerably thicker, and the ABXY buttons on the X3 are also a little bit bigger. The joysticks are about the same size. Something else I noticed, which might be a big drawback to the X3, is the fact that the USB-C connector seems to be shorter than that of the X2. So this really drives the point home that the X3 probably won't work with a phone case. Mind you, the X3 also has a cooling pad, so they might not want you to use a phone case with it. And truth be told here, comparing the X2 directly to the X3 in terms of comfort, and I kind of prefer the X2. It is lighter, it is easier to hold. The X3 is far more substantial though, but I'm not the biggest fan of the extending arms on it. It does make it feel flimsy. Fun fact here, this is not GameSir's first foray into a cooler for your phone. They also have the F8 Pro Snowgon, which I have reviewed in a previous video. It is very similar to the cooling mechanism on this GameSir-X3. The front pads are a little bit different, and we'll get to that in just a second. To test this controller out, I'll be using a Red Magic 6R courtesy of ETA Prime. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. Please check it out. Now, the temperature is a little bit hard to see here, but it did leave the phone sitting out in the sun to heat it up, and we're sitting about 50 degrees Celsius. And with the phone plugged into the GameSir-X3 with that cooler turned on, and the temperature dropped between 44 to 45 degrees Celsius. So give or take 3 to 5 degrees Celsius cooler. I will argue that the cooling effect the controller has will vary based on the type of phone you have as well as how you hold the controller itself. On the right hand side, you can see that the phone doesn't necessarily sit all the way back in the controller. The more I squeeze the controller, the more it flexes, and the more it flexes, the more it pulls that cooling mechanism away from my phone. Now, to me, this does seem like a pretty bad design flaw. I mean, my phone is not sitting in there correctly because of that camera bump. But a lot of phones have camera bumps on them, so if you've got a camera bump, chances are your phone might not be sitting in there correctly. It's also worth pointing out that power pass-through doesn't work for every single phone out there. GameSir does point this out in their instruction manual. And on my phone, for some reason, it showed it was charging no matter what port I used. Based on touch alone, the F8 Pro seemed considerably cooler, and it also ran quieter. Here is the fan sound of the F8 Pro when compared to the X3. Moving on to the controls on this, and the D-pad does feel very weird, but it functions very well. I was actually impressed with it. The face buttons and trigger buttons also feel good. The right joystick feels good. But when I was playing this, I noticed that the left joystick was acting up just a little bit. When I try to do a complete circle, it's not hitting the outer edges at the bottom. The right joystick was absolutely fine, but the left one seemed to be skipping a few inputs. You can see here the right joystick is absolutely fine, it's registering things without an issue, but the left joystick leaves quite a bit to be desired, and if you're playing a game that requires precision, you're probably not going to like this. So let's get into what I liked, what I didn't like, and my overall thoughts on the GameSir-X3, and we'll start out here with what I liked. First and foremost, this is comfortable to hold. Secondly here, while the D-pad is very weird, it does work very well. I like the fact that the D-pad, the buttons, as well as the shoulder buttons use micro switches. The cooling mechanism, for me at least, seemed to actually work. It seemed to be more than just a gimmick. And I like that they used magnets to hold the buttons and the joysticks on, and they're very, very easy to switch. And now getting into what I don't like about this controller. The first thing is the fact that this left joystick here seems to be, I don't want to say defective, but not working as intended, so I guess kind of defective. On top of that, the USB-C connector here isn't very long at all. So if you are using a phone case, you're going to have to take it off to use this. And I think you're going to want to anyways to take advantage of the cooling brick on this. I also don't like the fan volume on this. To me, it's very loud. This controller in general is very loud. I don't mind the clicks of the micro switches, but I don't like the fan noise on this. And speaking about the fan and the cooling mechanism, I think this is a pretty big design flaw. If you have camera bumps on your phone, there is a chance it's not going to sit flush on the bottom of the controller, which means you can't really take advantage of the cooling brick because your phone won't be making full contact with it. On top of that, if your phone does sit in here okay, but you squeeze this a little bit and it bends, your phone might lift off that cooling brick, thus rendering it not really effective. And to me, that is a bit of an oversight here. I don't know what they could have done to fix it, but they could have done something. Now, there are a couple more things I don't like here. I don't like the fact that the power delivery, the pass-through power delivery, is not compatible with every single phone out there. You will have to check to see if your phone works with this, and I didn't see a list anywhere. On top of that, the last thing here, I don't like the fact that these triggers are not analog. I think they had that opportunity if they wanted to use it. I mean, the triggers work absolutely fine, but if you like to play racing games, it's either full throttle or nothing at all, or full brake and nothing at all. There is no in between. Now, as to whether or not I think this controller is worth it, right now it's priced at $99.99. It's up for pre-order on GameSir's website. I'll leave a link in the description below. Feel free to check it out. At this price point, it has some very stiff competition. The Razer Kishi V2 was just announced, priced at the exact same, and for $30 cheaper or more if you can find it on sale somewhere, the GameSir-X2 is still available. So for me personally, I might look elsewhere, but this might be up your alley, it might not be. I'll leave that choice up to you. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, haul stuff and no fluff. Shoutouts to GameSir for providing this for a fair and honest review. Let me know your thoughts about the X3 in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts about the X2 in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos, don't tempt fate, save your state.